All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining as always. Today we've got another episode about hydrogen water. And I don't mean to be too repetitive, but there's quite a lot to say about hydrogen water. And I'm still very excited about it, especially when we're trying to go past nutrition. We know in our business, and you would know by following, that we get great results with nutrition. There's a lot that we can do with nutrition, and most people can get most or all of the way better with nutrition changes alone. Changing foods, getting off of bad foods, adding a bunch of nutrients. But there are many cases where that is not enough, and we do have to do something else in the medical category, or in the water category, in the pollution category, in the radiation category, which several of those I think line up actually with hydrogen water based on what it does. So we do also talk about nutrient loading here when we're talking about some specific nutrients, and we talk about reaching saturation. And it's really at that point where the benefits start to come in for a lot of these nutrients. I'm talking about vitamin C, selenium, zinc, iodine. Basically, you don't get a result until the tissues are saturated. And I think we're looking at a similar concept here with hydrogen. And with that in mind, I've been trying to think of and research another way that isn't hydrogen water, that the average person could practically reach saturation of hydrogen to where it really starts pouring in these incredible benefits that we're seeing in the research. And I don't think you can, other than using a hydrogen water machine. So I have been excited about using it still myself. Normally, you're not supposed to give something a solid judgment until you've used it for 3 months, right? You go to the gym for 3 months before you really gauge your results. Any diet changes or supplement program, you really want to give anything a 3 month window to decide whether it works or not. So in this case, I've almost been on hydrogen water for 3 months because I'm not always there. I had to leave and came back and was on it for 2 months, but I still have noticed a couple of major things. I've already shared that it basically fixed my problem that I couldn't sleep in the suburbs or in the city. And I attribute that to radiation, EMF. I just could not sleep comfortably. Some things helped, some devices helped. A grounding mat, a grounding sheet for the bed, that helped. But it was hydrogen water that really fixed that really quickly. Within the first week, I was sleeping properly for the first time ever in Houston, Texas. That's great. The next biggest thing I noticed, well, on my blood work, it showed that I was dehydrated before that, which explains why I was feeling so crummy and why I wasn't sleeping properly, because I was taking all my nutrients, but the water in my body was being disrupted. And that is a documented effect of EMF, especially on blood. Right? We see that EMF affects your blood. It crinkles up your blood vessels and makes them stick together. You can see this on live blood analysis in real time. So I believe that's what was happening to me. And my blood work showed that I was dehydrated, even though I consumed plenty of fluids and plenty of water-soluble nutrients. So by all other measures, I should be hydrated, but I wasn't. Hydrogen water fixed that as well within a couple of weeks. And I felt that in that I felt better. I felt hydrated. I felt energized. And that's in addition to a healthy lifestyle as well. I'm already used to feeling quite good, but this was next level good. And it's subjective, of course, but I noticed very, very quickly that other water was not doing it for me anymore. You know, I have good filtered water, and we went away. We went on a little trip, my wife and I, for a week. And by the second, third day, we were both saying to ourselves, it's hard to feel hydrated. It's like you can drink all the water in the world, and it's just not doing its job. And even here, I've been away from the machine for 6 weeks or something now, and my regular water, my filtered water, just doesn't do it for me. I feel like I'm drinking so much more to try to feel hydrated. It's very difficult to explain. And it wasn't right away that I noticed it, but definitely after a few weeks, it's like, wow, I feel this water on a totally different level. And you notice it once you start to stop taking it. Just like vitamins, you stop taking your vitamins for a week or two, you start to feel less energy and all this stuff. So in my case, I'm still feeling it right now, Dean. By the way, everybody, Dean Allen here is here to join us. He's the owner of the Zontos Water Company, which is the machine that I do use and what I continue to believe is the best machine on the market that will perform or should perform at its proper output for a long time. many years. We don't know what the upper limit is because the oldest machines are still functioning or still serviceable. So Dean's here to talk to us more about the details, because even on the few episodes that we've done before about this, we have not even touched on a fraction of the details. And Dean, you wanted to start off today with weight loss, and I'm going to hand it right over to you. And I know that you're going to give us a lot here. So let me just say that weight loss to us in nutrition is usually pretty easy. Usually they just need to stop eating processed foods, especially the glutens, the cookies and the crackers, all that stuff. Get rid of that and the weight will start pouring off. If they avoid sugar too at the same time, same thing. It's even faster. Usually, for most people, the weight just starts coming right off them. Put them on a bunch of nutrients so their metabolism can work properly. Again, normally we expect very good results. But over the years, we accumulate tough cases, and there's been quite a lot of tough weight loss cases. A lot of them are women, and a lot of them have been doing everything right for years. They've been gluten-free longer than I've even known about it. They eat better than I do. They have the time and the money to take care of themselves, and they try everything, and they still can't get rid of that last bit of weight. Now, I have picked up some nutritional tricks to hack some of those cases, but what's very interesting about hydrogen water is that on its own, it's been studied numerous times and shown that people can lose weight on it without changing anything else, which sounds kind of like a shady proposition. Like, oh, don't worry, you don't take this drug and you don't even have to exercise or anything. The weight will just start coming off. It sounds impossible, but apparently hydrogen water can affect the metabolism and hormones and enzymes so deeply or so thoroughly that, yeah, weight loss can take place without any other changes. Dean, tell us about it.
Sure. And if I can interject with just three things about the water, it doesn't work if people don't drink it. And as far as the longevity of the product, it needs clean water going into it and good electricity. So depending on where people are in the world, if there's power surges, things like that, they need to protect it. Just as a disclaimer, I guess. But when it comes to weight loss, that's very, very exciting. The benefit of being able to lose weight without lifestyle change by just drinking the water, which only works if you drink it, is phenomenal. And the reasons for that, which I'm going to get into some of the very high-end stuff from my team, but the reason for that in a nutshell would be the way hydrogen water affects ghrelin, which is what we consider the hunger hormone. So it naturally stops the desire to have simple carbohydrates. And simple carbohydrates are, well, poison, right? So it stops those cravings without having to have the lifestyle change. But when you don't want the simple carbohydrates, it's very easy not to have them, is one of the reasons why it helps with weight loss on a psychological level, if you will. On a practical level inside your body, it absolutely produces thermogenic effects, meaning fat burning effects, just by drinking the water, and increases mitochondrial function and a whole bunch of things that help your body feel healthier and increase fat burning. And you can't separate these two, muscle gain or recovery, if somebody was to choose to exercise. And remember, exercise sometimes isn't doing an Ironman, it's walking. Just walking or doing something like that, you end up noticing very quickly you can do far more of it and you recover far quicker from it. Now, severely obese people, just walking is exactly what they should be doing. So that's perfect. If you want to go to an Ironman level, the recovery is phenomenal at the same pace, basically. But not just the weight loss, the recovery from the exercise. So to quote my team here, basically the people who drink hydrogen-infused water rave about other things like youthful skin, fewer body aches, increased mental clarity, better sleep, but it can also mimic the effects of exercise without exercising. That's the point you were making. And in one major study, which is one of my most exciting when it comes to weight loss, muscle gain and recovery, they showed at an Olympic level that H2 athletes drinking the H2 boosted their stamina, as in their ability to be able to do a lot more, push-ups, pull-ups, etc., by 40%.
40%.
40% after 2 weeks at an Olympic level. So to get a 1% increase at Olympic level means you're a winner or a loser, basically, at that level. 40% increase on these athletes. And they were soccer players, which are some of the fittest in the world. So it seems like, according to the best, molecular biologists and physicists, etc., that hydrogen is almost like a silver bullet, because it takes care of the bad things, but it leaves everything else alone. There's no upper limit to it. So people who wanted to have weight loss and wanted to use stimulants, which will give you weight loss and you will stop desiring bad things, there's a negative to that. With hydrogen water, there's no upper limit. There's no negative, no matter how much you drink, to a degree.
Unless you get water poisoning.
Right. If you drink 300 glasses of it in one day and you're 110 pounds, you're going to have an issue because you'll flush out everything else. But for people that can drink between 5 and 20 glasses of it in a day or even more, there's no negative implication. So that's exciting for us when it comes to weight loss specifically.
By the way, let me toss in here that, of course, hydrogen is one of the 90 essential nutrients. Only a few of them are weird like that, like oxygen and hydrogen. But I read a ton of different books from alternative doctors and regular doctors and PhDs and researchers of all kinds. And people always mention the vitamins. There's a little bit of dispute, is biotin really essential? And little tiny bickering like that. They'll go through the same old minerals. There's some disagreement about the trace minerals, but they never mention hydrogen. They never mention oxygen on its own, or nitrogen, which these form basically all organic molecules. So they just are brushed completely under the rug. But what happens when we specifically boost oxygen? What happens when we specifically boost hydrogen? Well, here we're finding out that when we have found a way to put more free hydrogen ions into water or into gas where we can get them into our body and reach a higher saturation of hydrogen in the body, this can have effect on all these tissues because this is part of all biochemistry, right? Just like carbon, you can tweak the carbon and have an effect on the enzymes. Well, here with the hydrogen, you can have an effect on enzymes because it's part of the molecule. Just want to throw that in there. Like, this is not magic. It's just that hydrogen is element number one. It's the lightest element, and it's one of the few, the hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, that are basically going to be part of everything, or almost everything is going to be some combination of those basic elements. So of course we are made up of minerals. Of course we need vitamins to run and stuff, but it's really these protein enzymes. They're made of protein. They do work in the body. That's why we call them an enzyme. They are made of these basic building blocks. So this is back a step further from nutritional chemistry, right? This is chemistry kind of 101 here to understand that this is why hydrogen could have a benefit, just like having more oxygen could have a benefit in certain circumstances and certain delivery methods that are not exactly natural, but have proven to be very, very beneficial.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for people to understand, they say, what is hydrogen water? Because there's hydrogen in water, it's H2O. Obviously, that's not what we're referring to. We're referring to the hydrogen ions, like you said, that are in the water that have nothing to do with H2O. The H2O is dissociated and the hydrogen put back into the water. And here's the important part. The hydrogen is put back into the water, not the oxygen. And the reason for that is critical. People believe in oxygen water.
Yeah, you explained this. Somebody was asking, hey, there's this other machine that says it puts oxygen in the water too, and it claims it's even better. You get more hydrogen and you get more oxygen. And you said, no, that's a terrible idea.
Well, it is a terrible idea, and the reason is because oxygen is an oxidizer. It's where we get the word oxidant from, which is a bad thing. It's a poison. Hydrogen is a reducer. So they are doing completely the opposite things. Now, if you drink oxygen water, the truth is you probably won't suffer many damages, but you'll get no benefits at all because there's no benefit to having the oxygen in your body. In your lungs is very good. In your body, as in your duodenum and your stomach, not so good. But the fact that hydrogen is a reducer, it's reducing the oxidative stress in your body. Oxygen, not breathing in, ingesting, is increasing oxidative stress. But I wouldn't say it's harmful, it's just helpless, is really the point. But I know one of the things you wanted to discuss is enzyme function, right? And that is a multifaceted thing because our bodies aren't a filing cabinet, like that, where you can just deal with one thing. We are complex mechanisms, not like swimming pools. So what you do for one thing affects more than one thing. And that's a good thing when it comes to hydrogen. Basically, each drink of hydrogen water flushes our body with trillions. And for people to understand, you mentioned carbon. Carbon is so big in comparison to hydrogen. It would be like considering the size of my vehicle versus the size of Greater Houston, like the entire metroplex. Would be the size differential there. So when you say it's the simplest molecule, it couldn't be simpler, but it really is the building block of life. And that little humble element is able to change everything for people, especially when it comes to scavenging and pairing up with the most toxic thing our bodies are creating all day, every day. Every millisecond you're alive, your mitochondria are creating hydroxyl radicals. Hydrogen bonds with those.
This is like the exhaust, right? Mitochondria are like the little engines in the cell producing energy for us, and hydroxyl is one of the waste products.
Right. So the mitochondria is like the engine, and then the exhaust gives carbon monoxide and dioxide and things that aren't necessarily helpful. I mean, nobody wants to breathe out of the exhaust unless they're suicidal. But
the body does use targeted oxidation in some cases, some enzyme processes and stuff, but it's very under controlled. It's not because of oxidative damage from outside. It's just that when you burn anything, when any energy is spent in nature at all, in the body or outside of the body, there has to be a waste product. And in this case, it's an oxidizing molecule, hydroxyl
radical, right, which is a OH negative, right? So when that combines with hydrogen, we're creating more water. And here's what you said. You said you've been drinking all the water you can when you weren't with the machine, and you just don't have the same hydration. And the reason for that isn't because of the amount you're drinking or urinating out. It's because at the cellular level, water doesn't have the ability to just cross the semi-permeable membrane and be able to create more hydration inside the cell. That is unique only to hydrogen, and it's not magic, like you said, it's science. The only reason is a hydrogen ion plus an OH, it creates an H2O. And the hydrogen is so small, it goes straight through blood-brain barrier, semi-permeable membranes in somatic cells or any cells, and changes that. So that's where people feel the big difference. Yeah, it is an extremely exciting technology because unlike other things you could take, so for weight loss, you could take stimulants. For muscle gain, you could take things you inject that are illegal, to be able to perform better, hormones and things like that. With hydrogen, you do not need to do any of that. There's no test for it for performance or weight loss in competitive sports because it's absolutely natural, and it has no upper limit on the amount you can consume. So that's, I think, not only significant, but unique to hydrogen. If you wanted to exercise a lot and take tons of protein all day, every day, and you drank 2 kilograms of protein every day, you would have issues. You'd have liver issues because it's got to, sort through all of it. And you will have other issues like weight gain, etc. With hydrogen, the more you take, except for the fact that you have to urinate, the more you take, the better it is. So that's the real exciting advantage that we've discovered.
Which does
And
make it pretty fundamentally different from other nutrients. Like I was mentioning a handful of nutrients before, every single one of those has a toxicity threshold. You have too much vitamin C, your body will force it out of you by sending you to the bathroom with diarrhea. Zinc, you will get really, really sick. Selenium could be dangerous if blood levels get too high. It becomes a poison at that point. And these are quite small doses, actually. A gram of some nutrients could really, really, really cause you a problem. Tiny, tiny amounts of certain plant compounds could kill you. You could be messing around with essential oils, consume 10 drops of one of them, it can kill you. Even if it was just a common lavender or tea tree or something that you see at the grocery store for $7, 10 drops of that by accident could kill you. I'm pretty sure that number is fairly accurate, and it definitely becomes true if the doses become higher. I'm just saying that, yeah, the effective dose for most substances, whether it's a nutrient or a drug or a plant compound, it's a pretty slim threshold between it doesn't work and it's too much for most of them. And some of them you can take higher doses like vitamin C, but still, you can't take an infinite dose. It does not just keep getting better and better and better. Pretty much everything becomes toxic at a higher dose.
Right. And generally, it just creates expensive pee because it passes straight through when it's not creating damage, right? It's you just pee out everything that you took in a lot of ways, unless it's absorbed. And that's where hydrogen becomes incredibly interesting because it helps the absorption of the right things, leaves the wrong things, and gets rid of the right things at the right time.
Let's dive into that because I found that a very, very interesting benefit. And maybe one of the ways is because it upregulates pepsin, right, which is part of stomach acid. Stomach acid is hydrochloric acid plus pepsin, but it improves pepsin. That's just one thing. Okay, so tell us, how does it do this? How does it improve absorption of a lot of the research is about food, but I'm talking about nutrients too.
Well, to be clear, when it comes to hydrogen water therapy, I have thousands of printed out pages of things, but there are more studies on this than anything else that has been studied with real studies, right? So it's not like we know what we're talking about, but the science knows what we're talking about. It just happens naturally. There's no magic. But in conclusion, the investigations of over 1,800 double-blind studies and peer-reviewed articles have shown that the interaction between pepsin and hydrogen molecules by using the enzymatic assay, if people want to get really technical, the atomic force microscopy and stuff I can't even pronounce. My team could, but basically big spectroscopy. The results show that it significantly increases the activity of pepsin, which is what you were talking about, and changes the protein structure and dynamic properties of it. And we speculate that the hydrogen molecules in that are the reason for it. And even though it's not understood yet as to exactly how it works, and to be honest, it's not understood how almost anything works, the mitochondrial, and here we're going to get technical, the mitochondria of ME or CFS, like chronic fatigue patients, shows reduced glycolytic capacity and abnormal metabolism. So people that are obese, let's say, sometimes it's not just because of lifestyle. A lot of times they give up trying to do things to help themselves because there's something else going on at the cellular level that is storing more of what they don't want, adipose, and not getting rid of things correctly, right?
Adipose is fat cell, right?
Fat cells, correct. So the mitochondria with hydrogen show decreased protein leakage. They call it protein spilling, etc. in medicine. ATP production is increased, and mitochondrial membrane potential and increased mitochondrial mass increase. So for that to be understood, your mitochondria is like the little battery in your cell, right? So my cell phone has a little battery in it. If you increase the mass, size, functionality of that mitochondria, you are increasing your ability to create energy, to feel energized, to have more of a dopamine release, a accurate norepinephrine release, and serotonin release. And it happens naturally, right? So psychiatrists could give you SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or SNRI, or a million different things. It plays with parts in your brain that may help with this, but then it increases weight gain. Or it plays with parts in your brain that may help with this, but then it increases LDL cholesterol. There's a negative to any of those things. With hydrogen, as I say, the only negative is the more you drink of it, because it's creating water from hydroxyl radicals, the more you are going to urinate. So hardly a big deal for people when they're looking for health benefits. But
that's already a consequence of a healthy lifestyle. You have to stay hydrated regardless.
Right. People who are drinking lots of water are going to do that anyway. And when they're taking vitamins that aren't absorbing, they are just creating different color urine, if you know what I mean. It goes straight through. But when it is helped by hydrogen to actually absorb at the cellular level, then you're getting the real benefits, not just, just placebo benefits. But the mitochondrial membrane potential and the increased mitochondrial mass is a big deal that would take a whole nother episode, but it does ameliorate mitochondrial dysfunction. So people with lupus, Lyme's disease, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, these are all psychosomatic conditions, right? Psychosomatic not meaning psychological, they are real, but they all ameliorate and show exactly that type of issue. But it changes it by selectively scavenging only the OH. So, and the point OH is the hydroxyl radical, which is the only cause of mitochondrial damage, and it blocks the cascade of, we're going to get technical here, NLRP3 activation to release the inflammatory cytokines. And that is really where people sometimes make mistakes as far as weight loss goes. So you can exercise a lot and have lower caloric intake, and that will definitely make you lose weight. But that's easier said than done, right? For some people, that's not easy. Most people, that's not easy. So to be able to do this and not have to be concerned about caloric intake and exercise, even though it will draw you towards that naturally, so you would naturally desire it, is a very, very big deal. And it ties in with the enzymatic benefits. And there are so many enzymes for us to go through. So I'm going to try and summarize it with just one little study here. But our water intake was associated with a 1.98-fold, so almost twofold increase in eNOS expression. And we don't have time to get into exactly what that means, but molecular hydrogen water intake, it upregulates the expression of the INOS and downregulates the inflammatory cytokines like TNF-alpha. People really want to get technical, and it gets rid of the most potent, again, we're talking about a similar thing, the most potent oxidant among reactive oxygen species. So the oxygen that you're not breathing in, but you're swallowing, ingesting, is ROS. The other word for ROS is
A free radical.
a free radical or an oxidant, right? So ROS, reactive oxygen species. It's an oxidant. It ameliorates those issues. And we have to have those issues going on in our body because our vehicles create toxic things out the exhaust. Our bodies create oxidants, right? So having that to ameliorate it and move you on into health is priceless.
So a lot of
Okay.
people will know about cytokines, or at least have heard of them. They're an inflammatory compound. It's like if you can measure increased cytokines, that's correlated with all kinds of inflammatory problems, especially inflammatory brain problems like MS and stuff, right? So they're saying there's more inflammation in the brain. That's part of the explanation for this disease that they give us. So how does stopping cytokines affect weight loss? Is it just because it improves the metabolism? Is it because the body's not fighting that inflammation now, so it can do other things? What's going on with weight loss?
Okay, I think there would be from my team's explanation to me, and remember, I may own the company, but I am not the quantum physicist or molecular biologist behind the technology. So according to them, there's three reasons, right? So one of them has to do with ghrelin. We've discussed that. Pepsin is another. And then what's going on at the cellular level is what creates the hormones like ghrelin that make you crave the wrong things and make your body store the wrong things that you've consumed. So consuming hydrogen-rich water with even some of the wrong things would help your body not store those things because of, well, to summarize it, because of a healthier lifestyle in your cells. And we are cells. I mean, that's what makes us, right? Just tons of cells. So their description here was not just that it boosts stamina by 40% and increases mental clarity, but it stops the cravings that people would normally have when they are just living their normal lifestyle, which is a rather big game changer, because when people don't have to have the discipline to be training for an Ironman, but rather just the discipline to be drinking 8 of these at least a day, they would experience those type of results if they were to include physical activity, if they were to include resistance training, not just cardiovascular activity. Obviously, the weight wouldn't necessarily decrease. The weight may even go up, but the fat would decrease because the muscles weigh 1.6 times more than the fat. So I hope that answers that question. But I'm trying to go through all of their notes here. Where it gets very exciting to me is that drinking H2 reduces the liver fat, right? And leads to the overall weight loss of people. And our liver, as we know, is one of the largest organs, just on the right side of our chest here. And it has to deal with so many things. Everything you eat, everything you drink, everything you breathe, it's dealing with those things. And when it shows that it loses fat even on the liver. Now, this, according to the studies, has not been proven for alcoholic fatty liver. It's been proven for fatty liver from obesity or eating the wrong things like that, right? Doesn't mean it doesn't work for the other. The critical part is it is what processes everything. When you're drinking hydrogen water, it is a matter of, and I forget the exact number of days, but we're talking about less than a month that your entire liver resets and reproduces itself. And within 180 days, we have every cell in our body that reproduces itself. You're a brand new person. So very important for people to recognize that it's not hopeless. You know, no matter how sick they are, there's always hope as long as you make the right choices. And the water shows that it doesn't just activate fat cell burning and reduce fat storage, but it's able to trigger the cellular changes in our cells, whether that is your adipose cells, whether that is your fast twitch muscle, like a bicep, or whether that is even the rods in your eyes. It does exactly the same thing for the same reason. And that's where it gets really exciting. So I think some things that are so complicated and seem like they resolve things always tend to not just bring negatives, but not in it making sense. When it comes to hydrogen, you couldn't be more simple. Like you said, it's the building block of not just life, but number one on the periodic table. It's tiny. And the way in which it does it is not magical. But it is intense, you know, the benefits people get. So it triggers cellular changes at cellular level, obviously, as apart from any other popular waters or supplements you could take, things like that, and increases the efficacy of those supplements you take. And if we want to talk about a negative supplement like alcohol, it actually increases what people would drink it for. I doubt people drink alcohol because it tastes perfect. I think they do it because it makes them feel relaxed, right? It increases that, but decreases the dehydration and fat gain from alcohol, which is the highest caloric intake that you can pretty much get, right? Is high percentage alcohol, if that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you consider that and the ease after any workout and desire to eat different things, it changes things in a huge way for humans.
So you were about to go through a list of enzymes that it affects before I cut you off.
Well, the only two that I was going to bring up, I mean, there's a whole body is run on enzymes, right? But the two we were talking about, right, is ghrelin and pepsin, right? But there are so many of them. This is what sets hydrogen apart, is the increased ability to get the right ones upregulated and the bad ones downregulated. In the same way that it would just drinking the water for one day, the longer, the more, the better, but just for one day, will decrease LDL, increase HDL. It will decrease resting heart rate, and it will decrease the stress hormones that we have, cortisol.
Cortisol.
And cortisol is the cause of so many things like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, those type of things, right? Is cortisol levels. Right? Comes from trauma in the body, in the brain, and at the cellular level. Hydrogen water completely takes care of that in a way that nothing else could come close to. So I think a diet rich in it and the right nutrients, maybe even fasting, which I really believe in because of how it scavenges things, would be the best move forward. And I'm trying not to get into another subject here, but it's difficult because it does show as well how that helps not just with chemo and radiation, but carcinogens and cancer, whether that is benign or malignant, it is significant. And it's for exactly the same reasons that it works for everything else, to be honest. If
By
that makes sense.
reducing inflammation primarily and upregulating certain enzymes and downregulating certain enzymes.
Correct. And reducing total body burden for your immune system, because both you and I have gotten cancer today already, but your immune system dealt with it. If it didn't deal with it, then you would end up with a benign cancer and maybe, God forbid, a malignant one. Everybody gets cancer every day, so they need to stop being scared about that. What they need to be focusing on is their immune system that already stops them getting cancer every day. And the best way to do that is going to be hydrogen water, sleep, and diet, right? But hydrogen water is, as they say, almost a silver bullet, even though the mechanism is understood. But it's so simple, it sounds too simple, if that makes sense.
So you mentioned earlier that, if I heard you correctly, one of the things it can do is decrease the protein leakage, which is actually a term I do not hear very often, but that means elevated protein in the urine, correct?
It would mean that, yes,
Which
because
is
that's how
usually
your
It's usually taken as a sign of a kidney problem. So would this mean that it would have an effect with somebody who's on dialysis?
yes, it would, and it doesn't just mean a kidney problem. It could mean many problems. I mean, when you're leaking protein, it's at a cellular level, obviously, but it affects a ton of things, and in extreme cases, it leads to death, right? But your last question was?
Could that help someone who's on dialysis?
It could, oh, absolutely. Depending on why they're on dialysis would depend on how much it would help them. But as long as a person isn't in congestive heart failure and they are on water pills, to release all the water in their body because having more is a problem, it would absolutely help with any type of diabetes, one, two, you name it, even the eye problems, the peripheral neuropathy from that, all of those things, which, as you know, I've experienced big time from another cause. But yeah.
So that's interesting. Dialysis only came to mind because I was speaking with somebody who was on dialysis yesterday, and he's a bit of an odd case because we do see it in younger people from time to time, but usually it's kind of obvious. There's some major contributor. They're totally addicted to Coca-Colas, or they sit around and play video games all day or something like that. If it's in a young person, there's usually some obvious thing that they're doing much more than the average person. And most of the people we see on dialysis are quite old. They're not quite old, but at least 50 years old. But as they become 60, 70, it becomes more and more likely, especially since so many people have diabetes. And that's one of the common outcomes, is that some years down the road, you're going to end up on dialysis or blind or in line to get your leg cut off from gangrene, right? These are circulation issues. So this guy was a young guy. He's 35 years old. Looks like and sounds like he takes very good care of himself, takes the diet very seriously, especially since he's been trying to get off of dialysis for the last 4 years. He's cut no corners in trying to do this, and he just got started on our program this week, and I'm hoping for good success. But I only bring it up because I couldn't really find the cause in this case. It's not like he was a raging junk food addict before, and then he got on dialysis and changed his life. Like, he was a pretty healthy dude before.
Could it be genetic?
I doubt it. He related some story where he ate what he thought was a contaminated seafood dish and felt strange forever after, something like that. It could possibly be a parasitic origin. I'm not sure. Does hydrogen water have any effect on parasites? I haven't looked at that.
Well, I've never heard of it having an effect on a parasite because there's never been a test done with a parasite in hydrogen because the parasite is 1 trillion times bigger than the hydrogen molecule, right? So it's not straight test. But here's what is the test. The same way you got cancer today, and I did, and our body dealt with it, is your immune system. Your God-given immune system is what protects you and beats everything from obesity, from lethargy, from any of the psychosomatic things. I mean, you name it, cancer, whatever. It's your own immune system in your body that's keeping you alive, that's dealing with those things. Hydrogen does hundreds of things apart from boosting your immune system, but it only accounts for several percentage, like less than 10% of its active benefit to your body. The biggest active benefit is boosting your own immune system that deals with it by itself. So to answer that question, I would have no idea about shellfish or whatever you said he ate and parasites. I know this. Your immune system is what gets rid of cancer and parasites, and boosting that is the answer, right? Otherwise, you have to do like I did in missionary work and cut out big parasites from people. If we're talking really big ones, wish they could have had hydrogen water, would have helped them a ton. But they have no electricity and clean water. So, but if that makes sense, it's your immune system primarily that is going to change things for your health. Now, weight loss, physical gain, those things are up regulation of the right things and down regulation of the wrong things.
So I do agree with that. In general, if your immune system is working properly, you will avoid most parasites because we are exposed to parasites all the time. It's not just on meat and fish and stuff. There's literally parasite spores and eggs and little baby worms on everything, everywhere. There's fungal spores thousands of feet in the atmosphere. Like you just literally can't avoid these things. Everybody has candida and E. coli inside of you all the time, and other things that if they were allowed to proliferate would be super scary, super toxic. So yeah, your body will control most of that stuff and be less susceptible and kill parasites when they're younger before they get to the later stages where they're the size of your whole intestine, you know. And yeah, we might need to take some more extreme measures to get some of those other ones out. So yeah, well, that's a cool benefit. I am very, very interested in this enzyme thing. I should take a moment to really hammer this in, that most of the followers and listeners here will know we talk about 90 essential nutrients, and it's extremely important to educate ourselves on that. We're nowhere near the tipping point where everybody knows this, and we avoid most of the chronic disease that's out there by utilizing that strategy. That's fantastic. But people are always looking for the new thing, and I come across things all the time, new herbs I haven't heard of, and new combinations and new companies, and sometimes some new machine or something like that. But I have not really been that impressed by anything fundamentally new in the last 10 years that I've been in this business. I've been on the same basic recipe of the 90 essential nutrients the whole time. I've tweaked it a little bit as I learn more and as I, get to practice with more and more people. I've increased iodine, and maybe I have a couple of ideas on how a few different products or formulas could be tweaked a little bit, but they're not major changes is what I'm saying. Not only am I not excited about anything new in nutrition, I don't actually think there is going to be anything new in nutrition. It's far from it being completely figured out, for sure. At the end of the day, I said earlier that hydrogen's not magic, but if you keep asking questions in nutrition, eventually the answer is magic, right? Oh, we need this nutrient because it does this and it does this. Oh, and it activates that enzyme and this enzyme does that. Okay, it makes sense. But if you keep peeling away the layers, you're going to get to something called magic that we just really don't know how life works at the end of the day because it's so incredibly complicated. So I'm not saying we have it all figured out, but I do think we have the basics figured out. There might be some more trace minerals that are finally agreed to have a tremendous benefit. But for the most part, we've got the basic essential nutrients figured out. We've got the basic dose ranges for effective therapeutic treatment and effective maintenance doses. Even though the mainstream medical world doesn't know about that, this information is out there, and I don't think I'm going to stumble upon anything fundamentally new that will completely change the face of nutrition anytime soon. And so in my personal life, this is where I'm getting to. In my personal life, I'm not looking for more supplements to take. I take plenty of supplements. I could add a couple other things, sure. I'm a bit cheap, I got a good supplement regimen going, but I could afford to add a couple more things, but nothing drastic, nothing fundamental. So I don't think that adding or even taking away more supplements are going to actually change my existence that much because it's already been done. And a lot of us here, a lot of the followers, a lot of the listeners they've already done that as well. They already eat quite good. They don't eat junk food. They're on nutrients and they're wondering what's next. Well, I also don't think it's going to be a magic herb. I don't think it's going to be more herbal products, more juices, anything, any superfoods, anything like this, because although they all have their own benefits, those are the types of things that can very easily be used in excess and become problematic because they act sort of like a medicine on the cellular level. It's not good to take high doses of almost anything, things that are fantastic. Broccoli, widely considered the healthiest, if not one of the healthiest vegetables in existence. High doses of broccoli extract is not going to be good for you, right? High doses of garlic extract over time, it's not going to be good for you. So I'm not expecting any of these plant or nutrient compounds. Again, the wider world doesn't know about this, but within our camp, we know about this. And within orthomolecular nutrition and alternative medicine in general, we've got quite a good understanding and mostly agreement about doses and all this stuff. And I don't think any new discoveries are coming out of that camp. I know that was a long-winded way to get to this, but the most excited thing that I've been about in the last couple of years, 2-3 years in the business, has been enzymes, because it's one of the most understated things in the business. You do have a bunch of people in the raw food camp, and you've got a bunch of people in the detox camp also that do kind of understand this. People who really focus on kidney health and liver health and juice fasts and all this stuff. A lot of what they're doing is to promote enzyme activity and to take enzymes. This has been a huge thing, and I think it's a missing piece for a big part of the alternative medicine world and nutrition world, and a big part of the mainstream world. If we don't understand that enzymes do almost literally everything in your body, then we're never going to see the full nutritional picture. Almost all of us eat 100% cooked food or almost all cooked food almost all of the time. So almost all of the food that we're eating for our whole life has no enzymes in it. If it's cooked or processed, the enzymes are dead. We produce enzymes in our body, but with this deficit, this deficiency in our food system, the way we do food, there's pros to cooking. Don't get me wrong. There's pros to cooking. There's cons to cooking. And that's going to be a big conversation for every different food. But we do actually have an enzyme deficiency on top of a vitamin and mineral deficiency problem in our society. And we need vitamins and minerals because they're cofactors for enzymes. Enzymes are the ones that are doing the work in almost every single case. Only a few very obscure exceptions. Everything else is done by enzymes. We need the nutrients to be cofactors for them. But if the enzymes aren't there, and if our body's been chronically deficient for years, so it's underproducing enzymes, right? Our pancreas and other tissues are not producing as much enzymes. Maybe it's not producing enough insulin, right? It's a taxed body that doesn't have enough raw material to manufacture its hormones and enzymes correctly. And a hormone basically is an enzyme, by the way. Same concept here. And if our body's taxed, then it can underproduce enzymes. And we're under eating enzymes. And this is a very long-winded way to get back to hydrogen water, but this is why one of the most interesting things to me is hydrogen water's effect on enzymes. Because I've had very good results loading enzymes in customers, patients, if you want to call them that. I call them clients or customers or cases. Pump them full of enzymes, and I've gotten fantastic results with that. It's dramatically increased the results that I was used to with normal nutrition. And our nutrition is very, very good, right? I expect good results already. But I'm promising you, by adding enzymes, results went through the roof. Lots of people chose to stay on the enzymes forever instead of just doing it for a month like I recommended, because I just wanted that month to kickstart the results on the supplements. Right. I've chosen to stay on enzymes daily and to eat foods that are high in enzymes. A lot of people are doing this. A lot of people are drinking apple cider vinegar and using raw honey because they're both very high enzyme things. And a lot of people are trying to incorporate more raw foods in our diet. And that is great. It's a strategy we should do. You should do it. But if you add on the cherry on this cake, being hydrogen water, allowing us to utilize the enzymes we already have more effectively, That to me is a huge benefit, and it is something that it's one of the most interesting things in this whole
And I
hydrogen
think it's
water.
because of absorption and activation of those enzymes, right? So if your body's not absorbing it, then it's just passing through you. If your body's not using it to activate something, it's just passing through you. So I think a lot of people get disoriented when they're doing all the right things and not seeing results, but it only matters when it's absorbed and activated in your system.
It is very cool. So those two enzymes are very, very important. Do you know any others that are affected by hydrogen?
Oh, I mean, almost every enzyme, because enzymes work at not just a liver, kidney, gallbladder level like you were talking about. They work at a cellular level, right? So almost anything I can think of that's a healthy enzyme is far it far surpasses normal results people would have without or with the hydrogen water. It far surpasses it. Without, it doesn't mean it is useless. It just changes even that. And the last thing I'd say to clarify what has excited me about this technology for the last decade and a half is the fact that no matter what people are taking or doing or anything else, the way hydrogen water frees up your immune system, and your immune system isn't like your liver. You can't measure it and take it out, right? It's what's going on in your body. The most important function in your body, I would say, besides cardiac. But when you've got that benefit from the hydrogen, everything you're taking becomes beneficial at every level in the body. And whatever you're taking that's unnecessary still just passes through. But I think a lot of people lose hope when they are trying to take all the right things and they are trying to exercise and they're trying to sleep and they're trying to be calm. And really, what's standing in their way is none of that stuff. It's all perfect. It's the fact that their immune system and their body is overstressed, overworked, and doesn't have the ability to, at a cellular level or any other, ingest, absorb, and what was the other word? Activate the precursors or postcursors, whatever it is, to those enzymes and their benefit.
It does sound too good to be true. And I know that a lot of listeners will be like, these are like hour plus long just commercials for hydrogen water, but it kind of tying into what I was saying earlier, I'm not that excited about other things that we could do to dramatically improve our well-being. We know that moderate exercise has its benefits, and most of the listeners here already do that. We know, again, healthy, real foods and avoid processed food. People already do this. And many of them are feeling good and they want to feel better, or they want to further protect themselves from the extra pollutants in our environment, which you will have a very, very hard time avoiding short of moving out to the woods. And especially when I'm talking about EMF here, it's almost impossible for any of us to avoid this. I maybe could avoid it if I quit my job. This is what it would equate, because I work online. I would have to stop doing that in order to stop polluting myself with EMF every day. And I've minimized it to as much as I can. I've got my computer hardwired here right now, standing away from it. I got devices and all this stuff, but hydrogen water seems to be the next biggest protection. And I'm taking EMF sort of as a metric for all of the pollutants in our environment,
Right.
especially the hydroxyl radicals. It all has the same end effect of extra inflammation and interfering with enzymes. This is what pollutants do, no matter what type of pollutant it is or where it comes from. EMF's in that category as well, and hydrogen water has been shown to protect against all of those things. So in my own life, to protect myself against the increased stresses of today, I can't just triple my nutrients, not across the board. You can only increase a lot of them, a good pile of them. You can increase them to a maximum dosage here, but it's not infinite, and it's not very far away from what I'm already taking anyways. I couldn't double it in many cases. It would become dangerous at that point, and
Mhm.
especially concerning accumulation over time of the metallic elements. So
Oh,
that's
wow,
not
man.
something I can do. I already have clean water. Can I have cleaner water? I don't know, maybe a little bit, right? But I don't think I'm going to get any other major benefit other than putting hydrogen water in it. I'm really scratching my head here looking for bigger things that I could add on to what I'm already doing to further improve my well-being, which did happen, by the way. I should say it. One weird thing that happened when I was on the water as I was in Texas last time. I'm already kind of a workaholic. I'm not exactly proud of it, but it's who I am. I like to work, and there's a lot of work to do, especially in this business. I don't exactly want to work more than 12 hours a day, but I do it. Okay. So in Texas, I normally do tap out eventually. I'm not normally up till 10 p.m. on the computer, but I found myself there last time having more energy than I was used to. And you mentioned it takes away the cravings for simple carbs. That might be the case, honestly. We don't really snack very much at all, but we normally do. I'm usually there 2 months at a time, and we normally bake some cookies or something like that at least once. But in this case, neither my wife nor myself seem to have any desire to do any of that kind of snacking, even though it is an occasional treat for us. We just didn't do it at all. So it wasn't doing any of that sugar. And yeah, I was working way more than 12 hours a day. Again, I'm not saying like this is great grind until you die sort of situation, but I do in fact have a lot of work to do. And yeah, I was just able to work honestly the 14-hour days very, very consistently there. And I wasn't even really noticing it. I just wasn't burning out as quickly. Like I normally will. I'll tap out at 8 o'clock or something. I'm done. I'm not
Mhm.
here trying to prove anything, but I was able to go, yeah, until 10, 11 p.m. Beyond the healthy range of work for sure. But the only thing I changed was the hydrogen water.
Mhm. Right. And honestly, for people to recognize whether you are going to a party or a gathering and there's just peer pressure to eat the cupcake or whatever, the whole cake sometimes, but there's pressure to do that, or drink, which is the highest caloric thing, the ability for it to still mitigate those negative effects with glycogen and glucose levels and absorption it is rather phenomenal. But when you combine your type of lifestyle, obviously you notice phenomenal effects. I'll just warn all the viewers that when you have a very young child, like you notice the energy increase, right? But and everyone does. But when you have a very young child, you do not want to give them the hydrogen water before or later than about 30 to 45 minutes before they go to sleep, or they won't go to sleep very well because of their energy increase and especially their size body, like milligrams per kilogram.
Yeah, I wasn't noticing that it was like preventing me from sleeping. I mentioned
Well, no,
earlier.
but the wrong age and size.
Yeah.
That's why.
No, it
Yeah.
just seemed to work well. I was
Yeah.
sleeping well. Yeah, no problem going to sleep. So it was really great. So I asked you about more enzymes earlier, but I didn't realize we spoke about this the first episode that we did several months back, where it improves SOD levels, superoxide dismutase, and
Right.
glutathione peroxidase, which are two very famous, very well known enzymes. And they're so well known and so well known to be effective that lots of people
Right.
actually supplement with these on their own, right? They buy glutathione or they buy SOD. We even have a couple of products with SOD in it. But it's very interesting that this hydrogen water can improve the serum activities of both SOD and glutathione. And again, placebo-controlled studies here. This is big-time science. This is not Dean's basement. And as he's been speaking here, as I always do, whenever he's speaking in the background, I'm just popping into Google what comes up. And it's true. There's at least one study at the top of the list that pops right up for every single thing that he's saying. And you can go down a rabbit hole here. This is on page one of Google, and positive things come up corroborating what he's saying. But you keep digging for more and more, and you're going to find more and more. You couldn't read all these studies in a day. There's too many of them, and they're practically all showing. Or there is there any of them that don't show a benefit? Or I know there's none that show a harm.
There's no studies I'm aware of that don't show a benefit to the human body. Sometimes they don't show a benefit to a certain thing, you know. Nobody's gaining height because they're drinking hydrogen water, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
After you've fully grown, right? I mean, that type of thing, right? But no, I've never seen a negative at all. And I love to correlate that with the shoulders my company in the last 14 years has stood on, and that's alkaline water, because there are studies there, 13, all inconclusive or negative. We have about 1,868 studies, I think, now in hydrogen, not all funded by me at all. I mean, that's big money and a huge industry. But all of them show positive. All of them show even not just positive, but the mechanism of action in most cases. The latest big industry in this country has been alkaline water. And when you compare the two, it's like comparing my pit bull and my bearded dragon in a fight. It's just a joke, right?
And I do like that a lot of these studies are actually done in vivo. I mean, almost all of them are done in vivo. I mean, they're actually using animals or human subjects. They're not looking in petri dishes. I know there's a lot that you can see with cell cultures and stuff. But Dean, you mentioned earlier, the body's not a swimming pool. It's an extremely complex, constant interaction of so many different things that we haven't even figured them all out. Not even close, not even by far. We haven't even figured out all of the compounds in honey or in many in any common foods. There's no food that is completely biochemically mapped where every single enzyme and protein and everything is completely understood. It's so complex. So when you take an isolated cell and you put it in a petri dish and you see zinc kills the cancer cell or something like that, it's great, but it's a stepping stone towards actual actionable information. And that really happens when you try it actually in animals and people. And
Right.
the vast majority that I see of these studies are done in vivo, which is really, really cool. And they are seeing benefits in not every single body system, but most of them. And even the other day, I had another weird case. Almost all the cases I get are weird cases, right? The easy cases work their way to me eventually, or they weed themselves out because they don't need someone like me. I get the tough cases. So one earlier this week or last week was a muscular dystrophy case, and it looks, on paper, just like any other muscular dystrophy case. There's nothing that jumps off huge. And they're not severely disabled or anything like that either. So it's also a little bit difficult to gauge the progress that we've had with nutrition. And I don't like to really bring this up with clients, but I mentioned that one of the things that got me here is its effect with EMF, because EMF was bringing me down. It was obviously impacting my health and my performance, especially the longer I couldn't sleep properly. The more weird pains and stuff I started to have, it started to really affect my quality of life. Well, it's not something we normally need to talk about, but if you do have cases that have been on the products for a while, like this young man had, young boy had been on the products for a while and not really getting the results as expected. But again, he's not in a wheelchair, so it's not that obvious that it even is muscular dystrophy. That's a whole other topic. But even before asking you if you know of hydrogen water having a benefit on muscular dystrophy, I just popped it into Google. Hydrogen water, muscular dystrophy. Boom. What do you know? At least 3 papers came up that showed a fairly significant benefit. And it's hard to find studies. Doctors are very reluctant and researchers are very reluctant to claim
Beyond reluctant. Yeah.
major benefit in serious diseases. They have fear of ridicule. And I believe even before they submit or before they get into a journal, the referees are going to be like, hey, you need to tone this down. You can't be writing papers that make it sound like you can reverse a disease with a vitamin or with hydrogen water. So it's weird to see them actually reporting such a clear benefit from it. And they're not saying total reversal, but pretty major benefits here.
Absolutely. And then there's, empirical evidence and anecdotal. So we have had several clients that do have MS and seen our anecdotal evidence, right? Just what we see with our eyes and hear from them and visit with them and see their response to it. That doesn't mean it's a double blind at all. But I'm just saying the things that help my heart the most because you see the change in the person, whether that's weight loss or any of those things. But when it comes to MS and a few other things, Parkinson's, etc., they are just such sad things you see people going through. When you see an improvement, I love to visit either physically or verbally with those customers and be able to see their benefit. And we've seen a ton. So the studies show it'll work, and we've seen it actually work. We've just not seen it work on some people that never drank the water.
Of course. Now, you mentioned on our first episode, I think, about muscle soreness, and you were talking earlier about improved stamina and athletic performance. That's fantastic. That's important. And when we talk about muscle soreness, I think a lot of people think that that's kind of a soft thing to talk about compared to some of the way more important, supposedly, things that we're talking about. But as I was looking in the benefits on muscular dystrophy, this very obviously corresponds to less muscle soreness. Healthy people who go to the gym and are a little bit sore, I know that's not a big deal, but if something helps them and it's measurable, because it's tough to see a benefit on a healthy person. So if you see a benefit on healthy people, that's great, because when you look at more serious problems like muscle atrophy in muscular dystrophy and other serious diseases that could cause you to not eat very much and all this stuff, muscle atrophy is a very real thing. You'd be bedridden, you're wasting away. Muscle atrophy is a huge thing here. So the same thing that helps with soreness also helps with atrophy. And there is, yes, actually studies in this where they, even some where they induce fibromyalgia into mice and stuff. And then they compare them with other mice that are not on the hydrogen water, and they can see that the atrophy is actually greatly reduced by the hydrogen water. That is pretty major, and that can be extrapolated out to full-blown muscle diseases.
There's no question about the fact that your percentage of muscle in your body, fast or slow twitch, doesn't matter, but the percentage of muscle in your body almost always dictates longevity. So if you have muscle wasting, anything that's catabolic or anything like that has to do with muscles, the benefit of getting that muscle in your body is, for some unknown reasons and some logical ones, a critical factor. I think the most logical would be the cholesterol changes, the fat burning, the psychological, brain thinking, those type of things, even when you're sleeping, when you're having muscle growth, anabolic, not catabolic, right? And the hydrogen helps with that without changing what you're doing to build muscle. But for somebody with a disease that it's wasting without them doing anything wrong for it to be wasting is not just sad, but I believe highly preventable.
Yep. Hydrogen-rich water here increases muscle fiber size and reduces muscle fibrosis, which is substantially needed for improving muscle grip strength.
Right. And when a person exercises and it hurts more, especially if they have some underlying disease that makes their pain threshold change, right? So if you feel more stressed out because you were working out biceps or triceps or something the previous day, you tend to then walk away from doing that or delay doing it again. When your recovery is quicker, you build more, obviously, because you don't go through the discipline and the pain of trying to push past that.
So back to this muscular dystrophy child, client of mine here. The reason I was looking at this in the first place is because this child already is on our products. Now, I just met the mother. We should have talked a long time ago. They've been here about a year. They've been on the products about a year with some combination. And the combinations, they're okay, but I went in and tweaked them a little bit. Like, I wish I was more involved from the start here. We're a little bit late, but even with, not the optimal combination of products, after a year on solid, comprehensive supplements, enough should have been absorbed to saturate the tissues in the relevant nutrients, especially selenium and vitamin E. I think it should have been. So that's why I was like, well, what else could be involved here? It's a child, so you can rule out alcohol. You can rule out a lot of industrial exposure. They're not working in a coal mine, all this kind of stuff. What could be happening? And I said, I don't like to bring up EMF with customers because we're here for nutrition. And when you really get into EMF, and I am into EMF, when you really start to dig down that rabbit hole, you realize that there's a whole nother set of lifestyle changes that you need to do to combat EMF. Now, that's pretty annoying for a lot of us who are already in the healthy living movement thing, because we've already changed the way that we eat. We've already, made our relatives uncomfortable at dinners and stuff, and everybody who knew us had to get used to this is the way that we do things. We don't eat gluten and all this stuff. We got all these rules. We made all these adjustments. We made all these investments in our health already. Most of us buy supplements every single month, buy water filter. We buy all this stuff. We buy organic food. We made all these commitments already. But then you realize, oh, EMF's also a problem. So I also have to make a whole nother set of changes and buy a whole nother set of things. And many times those things can be quite expensive here. We're talking about, EMF paint and grounding your house out and, major shielding and stuff. I've spent hundreds of dollars on some of these knickknack type of devices, and some of them work and some of them don't. And I'm just saying it's a headache, and I don't even sell this stuff anyways. Like I sell a couple of EMF products. It's just, I don't want to load my customers up with more than they can handle. We already give a lot of information. We're already asking major changes to their lifestyle for the nutrition part of it. So do I want to throw it all to them at once? No. But EMF is such a huge problem that I have to bring it up at some point. And hydrogen water has been a good way for me to insert this, because out of all the things that I've done for EMF, again, I'm talking shields, I'm talking crystals, I'm talking pyramids, organite. I've got my house surrounded in this stuff. I wear stuff on my body, bracelet, anklet, pendant. And I'll keep buying more stuff for this as well. Grounding mats, lots of stuff that I've done against EMF here. And I live in the country already too, half the time. And yet it still affects me. So even in my personal life, my wife says I'm crazy. She said, you just bought a hydrogen water machine. You need to give it a little bit before you buy another one. Because I'm sitting here thinking, what's the next major thing that I can do to improve my well-being? The other half of the time I'm up here away from the hydrogen water machine, I'm thinking, do I want to buy a whole house reverse osmosis filter? Because I do. I'm in the market for one. So it filters the whole main line before it goes to all the taps and stuff. So I'm not even getting fluoride on my hands when I wash my hands. I do want to do that. But I'm weighing that against the hydrogen water machine, and I'm saying, I think I want another hydrogen water machine, because it's been the biggest thing. It had the most difference for me. I cannot function properly in cities. I get unbelievably agitated, irritated. I can't sleep. That makes me even more agitated and irritated. And very, very quickly, I'm no fun to be around, and I want to leave the city as soon as possible. So the only thing that's made it somewhat tolerable, well, it's made it tolerable, honestly. Not somewhat, not taking it away. It's totally made it tolerable, is the hydrogen water. So back to this muscular dystrophy kid, when I'm sitting there thinking, what could possibly help this child? And I'm also thinking in my head, is it worth it, me pitching hydrogen water? Am I sounding like I'm just trying to sell something? Or is there a real possibility that the EMF and the other pollutants and whatever else, is there a real possibility that hydrogen water could be the thing that gets this child into the green here? If nutrients is not doing it alone, I did make some changes. I hope those changes work. I really do. But if they don't, is there a chance that hydrogen water can fix the problem? Even though hydrogen deficiency cannot be blamed for the problem, can it come in and get rid of these muscle problems? And it looks like there is a chance of that. Again, in full-blown studies here showing that muscle atrophy was definitely improved.
Right.
And muscle fiber size improving and reducing muscle fibrosis. Exactly. So it's very, very cool to me. It's beyond nutrition to me. And in this modern world, this is the final statement here. In this modern world, I think we all need to go above and beyond. We do need nutrients to operate under normal conditions, but we are not under normal conditions. And those conditions are getting increasingly not normal. EMF is going up. It's only going up. Nothing is reducing it. I'm just seeing a whole bunch of articles now about EMF in cars, EV cars, right? Electric vehicles. This is huge. Your car did not used to be a cell phone. Now you're sitting inside of a cell phone when you're driving your car, right? Your neighbor's got Wi-Fi. That Wi-Fi is going to get more powerful next year, right? The power lines are going to go up. Everything's going up. As we've been going further into electrification and wireless society, this is not going away anytime soon. And I don't think this child lives next to a high voltage power line or above a subway station or some just incredibly massive source. It probably is just the household devices, the Wi-Fi that's in every single home, the multiple phones and tablets and computers and video game systems that are in every single home. You know, even if you don't have the Alexas and stuff, every home is full of this stuff now, and it's impacting us more through the generations. And I'm sorry to hog this, Dean, but this is a pretty important thing here. We've gone generations now who grew up on processed foods and, you know, got a bunch of vaccines when they were a kid and grew up on antibiotics and painkillers and birth control pills. And, you know, there's nutrient deficiencies the whole time. Processed foods became the norm, became up to 80% of the diet or more for many people. They have children who are less strong than their parents. And then, you know, we're 3, 4, 5, 6 generations in now that have gotten progressively weaker. And this is why we get these children that have these diseases that really shouldn't be happening. The dystrophy itself should just be a nutrient deficiency, but we're seeing children who are born weak where they're never really going to get 100%. And this is me included. I was born with birth defects. The nutrition fixed those birth defects. It fixed the symptoms. It fixed the musculoskeletal problems that I had, but it'll never make me stronger. My 100% is my maximum capacity has been reduced. I will never reach 100% performance and longevity. I don't mean to be a pessimist. This is a realistic expectation. This has been shown all the way back to Pottinger's cats, right? That he was feeding cats cooked food and then raw food, and then you notice the cooked food, not only generation 1 was really bad, generation 2 was extremely bad, and I believe it was generation 3 that was infertile, right? So human beings are extremely resilient that we've been able to do this for 6, 7, 8 generations, or however many it's been since, you know, your forefathers left the primitive environment. It's amazing that we've made it this far. It's amazing that you can go 20, 30 years eating Doritos and drinking Pepsi and be without a full-blown disease state. It's incredible. Your dog would die on a few months of that diet, right? But we're awesome that we've made it here, but now these children are getting the brunt end of this generational decline here. And a lot of people in general are not getting the results that have been expected in the past by basic dietary changes and exercise and other lifestyle and supplements. All throughout the books that I read throughout the decades, they've been progressively reporting more and more and more difficulties with the same problems that used to get results. Say 10 milligrams of something used to get a result before 50 years ago. Now it doesn't work like that anymore. Now you need 100 milligrams and a bunch of other stuff to get that same expected result. So this is it. The increasing electrical pollution and wireless and all that, the increasing nutrient deficiencies, and the fact that each generation is born worse off than the last. And, you know, how can hydrogen help us? Well, we can only take so many nutrients. Once you're on clean food, you can't get any cleaner. You know, you can clean water.
What happens when you leave your house? Because you mentioned, you know, protection devices and things like that. A lot of people like yourself, you travel, right? So if your immune system isn't like I'm a hydrogen water expert, I'm not an EMF expert, so I don't know about that. I'm not learned on that. But as far as hydrogen water goes, when you leave your house, you know, you have the immune uptake, right, to be able to deal with a lot of those negative things that could come into your body or immune system, whatever, like EMF.
So you carry that protection with you for a while.
Well, yeah, but it's your immune system that's built, right? So you can't leave without your immune system, but you can leave a place, like you mentioned, you have things to protect from EMF, which I don't understand fully, the EMF stuff. I'm not a scientist on that, but you leave that when you travel on aircraft, right? But you don't leave the immune system behind when you travel on the aircraft.
No, I get what you're saying. You can take significant measures to protect your home, but you got to go outside. You got to go outside.
Yeah, the body is what moves around sometimes. I mean, some people maybe not, but you travel, you know. So.
Fair enough. And yeah, I've said it too. There is evidence that several nutrients can protect against radiation, even in some of the same circumstances that hydrogen water is being looked at. Like, for example, when people are doing radiation therapy for cancer. So other nutrients like vitamin E and stuff have been tested and shown a benefit, yes. But in my personal experience, being topped up on the nutrients, like I'm good on nutrients. I've been on the nutrients here for 10 years, and I've been taking it very seriously for at least 8 years. So I don't think I have any major deficiencies at this point. right now, and nothing has helped as much as hydrogen water. Nothing. That I didn't always know that I was sensitive to EMF, but I always knew that I didn't feel comfortable in cities. And that sleeping problem, I attributed my insomnia to nutrient deficiencies because indeed, when I fixed my muscle problem, that was the main thing. When I fixed my musculoskeletal problems, the sleep got better too. It is the same deficiency category. But even still, when I went to cities, I still couldn't sleep, regardless of how much nutrients I was on or how little sugar I had or anything like that.
Right.
So none of that ever truly helped me live in this high EMF society the way that hydrogen water has, and it did that very, very quickly.
That makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, actually.
So, Dean, do you have any other closing topics you'd like to throw in there before we jump out?
I could think of so many, but honestly, if people want to take their health seriously, that doesn't just mean investing in a product, it means investing in a product and using it, obviously. I personally, I don't know everything about all these parts of medicine like you do. If you see how many books I've got in my background in comparison to you, I'm not as learned on all those different subjects, just vertically specialized on hydrogen. But I do believe it's the best thing people can do if they're eating correctly. And when I say eating correctly, I don't even mean perfectly, but if you've got, comparing to other countries, if you've got clean electricity, you've got clean water, put it in the machine, drink the water, and whatever you eat absorbs better and helps you better. And the benefit people can get per capita or per dollar spent or per minute spent, I don't believe could be exaggerated with hydrogen water. It's incredibly exciting, and I just feel honored and humbled to even be the owner of this company and have the access to the people whose lives I see changed. And that is exciting like nothing else to me. So I think that would be all I have to say, unless you give me a few more minutes, and then I'll think of another few hours of things to say.
Well, we can do future episodes. We had a whole bunch of topics we discussed earlier before we went on record that we could talk about. But I think this was a good session here. This made sense to me. I know some listeners may not be that happy that this is an extended ad, but I believe in this. I'm fully here marketing this. We're not being shy about this. I do encourage you to look into the machine, especially if you do have some serious problem. That's when it seems that it's going to have the most benefit. But even a lot of people that I know that don't even have problems, they already go above and beyond. They have an infrared machine, and some of them have the mini hyperbaric oxygen chamber, the coffin type of mummy looking thing you step into. They're willing to spend $7,000 on that or $10,000 on that. And this is a pretty good bargain if you actually understand the value of these machines. I will put in the description the links to the 3 other podcasts and videos that Dean and I have made. And 2 of them talk about actually these specific issues with machines, how to compare them, where is the value, how long are this type of machine going to last? What about the hydrogen tablets? We talk about all that in those other episodes. And if you do check those out, you will understand why I have come to believe that Zontos is the best option. And it's not the cheapest option out there, but it's also not the most expensive by any means. There are far more expensive models. And as I've been digging into them, I can't find any of them that match the specs of the Zontos machine. In fact, Dean, the only thing that I've found that any other machine has done better is been able to put out 3 liters per minute instead of 1 liter per minute, which I don't really care about that. 1 liter per minute is a lot. Like that's enough for a family for sure. I know you have some people who have it in like an office setting where multiple people are using it, and 1 liter a minute seems to be fine to satisfy their needs. So
it's the same with a fridge, what in the US, a fridge, it's like that type of speed. So 3 liters a minute seems high. I'd be interested to know like ppm levels, half-life, etc.
They're not anywhere near what Zontos is. I found out they're nowhere near.
Right.
So
I love Zontos, but if people can be on high quality hydrogen water with the right ppm and the right half-life, I'm happy whether it's my company or not. I prefer it to be my company because I love people, and obviously it's my business. But I can't overstate the benefit of hydrogen therapy by itself as long as people get real hydrogen therapy.
Absolutely. So yeah, check out those other episodes, understand the pros and cons between different machines. Even though it is a large investment to me, by my standards, I do think it's worth it. Some of our customers have jumped in. I think another one did yesterday, Dean, and I know him. He has a form of cancer. He has a form of cancer. It's not the most worrying cancer in the world, but it is something that is very serious, and we all want to treat very seriously. He's already on the nutrients. And when he asked me my honest opinion of what the next step is, the next layer of protection, it's hydrogen water. There's a whole bunch of other options out there for him that he could do therapeutically. You know, he could get stem cells injected or something like that, right? But those types of things have a benefit. You leave the clinic and it's gone, right? You get it for a little while afterwards, but it dissipates. You can keep using this machine for a long time is my point here. Not only can you use it if you are in a serious health condition in which you're the one that needs it the most, it's a good idea, but then it continues to work. And not only you, your friends, your family can share it as well. It's one of the things I like about this. You know, I do something or try something. My wife obviously wants to try it too. And this is something we could share. We can't really share supplements. We've got to buy twice as much in order to do that. But we can all use the same machine and all benefit from it. And it's been fantastic. I'm very happy with it. You are going to hear more about it because it is in my toolbox now. It's not something I always knew about, but now it's there. And I don't think that its importance is going to go down anytime soon. As mentioned, things are getting worse. Some things are getting better. Food systems getting marginally better. As the market demands better products, it's getting marginally better. But nothing's putting minerals back in the soil. Nothing's stopping the EMF from going up. I hope political action takes place, but we're not looking forward to that right now. Right now, we're expecting it to get worse, and so we need more protection. And for me, I'm happy I got hydrogen water here in the mix. Dean, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate you. I love your heart and love for people and your excitement level at seeing progress.
Might be even more soon. I got some books coming about hydrogen water too.
Awesome. I look forward to hearing that. That's what I specialize in, so all ears.
Check out the links in the description, zontoswater.com, and of course my affiliate link is in there as well. I will get a commission if you do purchase, but I encourage you to look into it further. Again, it's a big thing. Do your homework, make the right decision. We believe that this is the right decision. If you want to do hydrogen water, we believe that this is the correct way to do it, the best investment for your money that is expected to last a long time, as long as you need it and more. So other than that, remember that you can always find everything that I do on my website, notusbooks.org, including all the books that I've written and helped publish, and all of my social media channels and all that. It's all in the description as well, but it's also all on the website, all my links, hundreds of book reviews. Many of them are about health, or most of them are about health. And of course, an archive of this podcast is on notusbooks.org as well. You can download those episodes there for free. And other than that, stay healthy, everyone. Until next time.
Thanks, Ryan. Bye.